Why do you think Brandon Aiyuk is going to break out this season?
Yeah. So I think, first of all, this isn't some new phenomena. Like everybody's kind of been talking about this. We've talked about it before, but it's one thing to talk about it and just assume. Obviously, we look at it and say, well, Trey Lance has now worked with him 2 off seasons in a row. They have chemistry. Okay. That's a good thing. But what is the film showing you? And so I went back today and I watched the NFC Championship game for the first time since it happened. And I strictly watched Brandon Aiyuk and also was disgusted with how bad Jimmy Garoppolo was. It was worse than what I thought. Couldn't help but to see that. But in watching Brandon Aiyuk, he ran 29 routes in the NFC Championship. 7 of them were clear out routes. Okay. So out of the 22 routes that were not clear out routes, he was open on 17 of those. He was only thrown to 4 times where he caught 3 balls.
Mhm.
And away from the ball, he also drew a penalty, a holding penalty. So the point of that is that I know early on in the season, there was some film that showed Ayuk wasn't the best route runner and some of those things. Obviously, he's matured because the man was open all game long. And one thing that I did say, the feeling that I got when I watched that game live was Brandon Aiyuk could have gone for 200 yards receiving if they would have just kept feeding him and picking on the cornerback over there, number 11. They didn't do that. And after watching solely him for a full game, I believe that even more. Yes, he could have been the MVP of that game if they had just picked on number 11 and abused that matchup until they stopped or until they started helping number 11 out. Brandon Aiyuk could have gone for 150, 200, and 10 catches.
I keep comparing this to the Colin Kaepernick, Alex Smith thing, but this really reminds me of Michael Crabtree. Like Ayuk is in the Michael Crabtree role, a little bit shorter. Both have really long arms, a little bit faster than Crabtree. But when Alex Smith was the quarterback, he wouldn't throw to Crabtree that much. It really wasn't about Crabtree. And I think in the background, Colin Kaepernick was working. I'm like, man, you're open. I'd get you the ball. Dude. And as soon as Kaepernick became the starter, they just force fed Crabtree over and over again. And that was part of the way that Kaepernick won over the team was winning over Crabtree and getting the number one receiver on the offense in his corner. Vernon Davis followed suit. I think what we've seen is that Lance wants to throw to Ayuk. He did it against Houston. Ayuk was the most targeted player in that game. Lance likes throwing toward the sideline. That's where Ayuk is. Debo and Kittle are over the middle. That's where Lance misses high. Just saying. I think they are very close. They've worked out together the last 2 off seasons. There's something between them like there was between Kaepernick and Crabtree. I think they're going to have a big time connection. That's going to be the number one receiver on the team when Lance takes over.
And I know everybody's big on this Christian Watson thing, um, and I understand it, but it's also been a couple years since Trey Lance has played with Christian Watson. He has worked out with Brandon Aiyuk 2 straight off seasons and had a full season to at least be in a locker room with this guy. I think people are overlooking the value of Brandon Aiyuk, that chemistry, and I think they're also overlooking Brandon Aiyuk as a deep threat because I really do think Brandon Aiyuk can certainly take the top off. He may not be the fastest guy when it comes to measuring 40s, but I believe he's shifty enough and runs good enough routes. And with the length of his arms being able to separate, I really do think Brandon Aiyuk can be a legit deep threat in this league, especially with chemistry built with Trey Lance. So I think people are really overlooking those aspects of Brandon Aiyuk with Trey Lance.
I agree. I think he can be great on like stutter goes and double moves and uh, corner posts, that kind of stuff. Um, and I do think he can get you chunk plays, 20, 30 yards. I'd like the Niners to add someone who could get the big home run, the 70-yard catch. I don't know that that's necessarily anyone on the team right now. They should get that guy. That's what the draft is for. So, yeah, Brandon Aiyuk is definitely going to break out, but and this is neither here nor there, but get a different type of wide receiver for once. You don't need to keep adding to the Yak Bros. That's what Jimmy needed. Give Trey Lance like a bash bro, like a home run guy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. If you're going to draft receiver, and they probably will, you have to go get somebody different than what you have now, or you should at least, in my opinion. And so, yes, go out and get somebody that's a burner. Same thing with running back.
This is a great idea. If you watch any game from last year and just focus on Aiyuk, he's open 3/4 of the time. It's a fun game. It's like a drinking game. Every time Brandon Aiyuk is open, you got to take a shot of milk. Just saying, it's a fun game.
Well, in the NFC Championship, you would have taken 17 shots. That would have been terrible.
Jacob's mad. Yeah, Debo can do it. He also plays running back half the time. Just saying.
Debo
dumb, like a 4.48. Could we get someone a little bit faster? Debo like is not. Has he ever won on just straight go route?
He did. Not in the way that you're thinking against Baltimore, but that was more like Steve Smith. I'm going to go out and just beat you to the ball at the catch point.
I'm just saying, like, that's not necessarily his skill set.
Well, the Bears game, he did, right? Yeah.
What?
That shot play against the Bears right before half that saved Jimmy Garoppolo. This is simple shit. Can you do this? And then boom, deep ball to Debo.
Yeah.
I also think this, just to be fair, I think that play action in Shanahan's offense can certainly get guys open deep downfield. I think it gives you an extra step potentially. So you don't have to necessarily be a burner. But I agree with you. Getting somebody that can just, hey, you need a big play. We're not even going play action, just mano a mano. Let's go ones across the board. Cover 0, cover 1. Can you beat somebody deep? Let's see that.
The last time Shanahan had a quarterback he thought could throw the deep ball was Hoyer. He had Marquise Goodwin as a starter.
Yeah.
And this was a skill set he used to value. Then he realized that Jimmy Garoppolo wouldn't throw deep, and there was no point. Trey Lance wants to throw deep.
Yeah.
So get him someone better than Travis Benjamin, okay? That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
anyway,
absolutely.
That's the end of the show. It was great doing the show with Stevie Wonder.